Ladies and gentlemen, honorable adjudicators, and esteemed opponents, today's motion that we will be discussing is, as the feminist movement, the House will encourage women to be selfish. To start off, for generations, women have been socialized to put others' needs ahead of their own, but in families, relationships, workplaces, or even activism, feminist movements have long challenged systems of oppression, but many argue that even within liberation, women are still expected to be fully submissive and emotionally generous people. This motion explores whether encouraging women to embrace selfishness is the next step in true empowerment. What we define by selfish is that we don't see it as bad or in a nefarious context, rather, unapologetically self prioritizing, reframing selfishness as self advocacy and boundaries, which meant that women should prioritize their own well being, desires, and ambitions. So, as the first speaker of the government team, I hereby will express my stance on how women should be encouraged to be selfish. We often see that in society from the past to present, we've always seen that it is built on unpaid labor of women. They've been doing everything hectic from childcare to caregiving. Most of the time, this stresses them out since we never give them anything to them in return. Well, that's most of the time. We should encourage selfishness since it reclaims what patriarchy has took them for granted. We all have seen how in media and even in religion, women are praised for putting others first. However, this can lead women to having an emotional burnout and it felt as if they have been mentally abused. So let's change the perspective to how society perceives assertive men. Now we see assertive men as somewhat leaders, but on the other hand, women are labeled bossy and or cold if they are being assertive. So if we encourage women to prioritize in who they really want to be, this can dismantle this double standard in society. Like we see as an example, male CEOs often prioritize themselves as being successful over employees' welfare without judgment. And women in leadership are often looked over, if not compassionate. So basically, to put it simply, encouraging women to be selfish is a way to say that I am someone who has their own needs. I, as a woman, am not always stay-at-home cooks or support system. I am a capable person. And here are some data that I have collected. So, according to the UN Women, around 70% of women perform unpaid care work, and that is always done globally. In context, that's 3 times more than men. All of these care works include child caring, caring the elderly, housework, and emotional support. So if women were to be selfish enough to refuse unpaid labor, it will crash the global economy because capitalism is reliant on that invisible work. Now you may ask, how so? Well, the proof is that being the OECD estimating that unpaid care work is contributed to at least $10 trillion annually to the world economy. And according to the US Psychological Association, women are 2 times as likely as men to experience anxiety and depression. Women often get chronic stress due to their dual burden of work and domestic responsibilities. The WHO reports women experience higher states of burnout and emotional fatigue, especially in caregiving professions such as babysitting, teaching, and social work. So, if we encourage selfishness, it could reduce the burnout by normalizing saying no and prioritizing self-care. We also have seen that across cultures that this concept of an ideal woman is someone who is nurturing, quiet, giving, maternal, and sacrificial. However, in reality, this image of women being self-sacrificial is an indoctrination by patriarchal societal standards. A good example of this being the maternity harassment in Japan, where as women who are employed, they are often forced to resign after pregnancy. Those who refuse those resignment, they are often seen as effeminate or egotistical. To quote Audre Lorde, she says that caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is a form of self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. You might think that the power of feminism lies in solidarity, mutual and overall being one community. Selfishness as a value erodes trust and support networks, but that's not right at all. Like I have mentioned before, that the definition of selfishness is about self-prioritizing in a positive manner, okay, not in a negative manner. We see this example: women's shelters, reproductive rights, um, unionizing, they all require collective effort together and not blatant self-focus. It is an achievement done by a union of women who aren't afraid of expressing who they are and what they want to be. Nowadays, men are already benefiting from selfishness norms. While in a relationship, women are often likely to manage schedules, healthcare, women's children's education, and home needs, while men, on the other hand, are more likely to prioritize their careers. Men negotiate raises 4 times more often than women, but when women try to negotiate, they are 30% more to receive backlash. So, why is ambition admired in men but discouraged in women? To close it all off, when women finally act selfishly, like men have always been allowed to, we call it as feminism. But when society resists, it proves how deeply women's self sacrifice is expected and not chosen for. That concludes my view on that motion about feminism. Thank you very much.